So when it comes to frequently asked questions, is your character a girl is probably one of the most commonly asked ones that I'm likely to get from new viewers or people that have only met me for the first time. And typically, once they find out that the answer is yes, I usually get hit with why? Why is my character a girl? Which is a bit of a blunt question, but I suppose it's fair. If you're not already used to it or expect it, I doubt my voice is the kind you'd expect to come out of this character design when you saw it for the first time. Be real. You expected a Shortcake or an Imarichu or a Jaden, It's a Me D, and ended up with a post-puberty Brody animates. So
I've always liked cars.
I think by this point though, my more regular viewers, or general just friends, have gotten used to this whole thing enough where what my character looks like and what my voice sounds like doesn't really matter anymore. In other words, I've brainwashed you. I forced you to assimilate to what I want, and you've completely accepted it with no questions asked. Isn't that great? Jokes aside, the reality of my channel is one simple fact. This is my character, and this is my voice. My voice will be narrating over footage of my character. Therefore, for all intents and purposes, this is the voice of my character, because this is the voice that will be associated with my character. But despite being such an omnipresent and fundamentally important key part of my channel and general online identity, my character is also one of the least explained parts of my channel and general online identity. Well, at least, until right now. What I meant before. I'm honestly almost surprised I managed to keep a lid on it for so long. You'd think I'd talked about it by now. I've made a couple allusions to it on the community tab over the years with a few certain select art pieces, but in terms of in-video, which is what's actually important, in-video, but in terms of in-videos, which is actually what's important, I think I've alluded to it a single time, and that's it. It's actually kind of funny because the story of how my character was conceived and ended up the face of my channel is such an ass-backwards way compared to every other storytime animator I know. It's got layers, you know? It's not just I like it and it's my character and I can do what I want, although that is part of it. It also relies on a admittedly surprisingly long string of really bad decisions and projects that somehow led me to this point of sock puppeting a purple moon girl. Though to be fair, I'm not going to rip off the entire band-aid in this video, because to be honest, some of the things I've seen come from it is actually kind of funny. But without further ado, you guys have waited long enough. How long's it been? A year? Year and a half? Let's do this. Heyo, I'm MoonieMuses, and today we're going to talk about my character and why she is the way she is. This is why my character is a girl. So, My Little Pony. Yes, this is real. We're starting this video talking about My Little Pony. Amazing start to the video, I know. I can feel my viewer attention dropping faster than the show's quality. But my time as a brony is a video for another day. Point is, I liked My Little Pony, and I ended up making another friend who also liked My Little Pony, named Sunny D Dandelion. It's not her real name, but it's a name on her Tumblr, so I'm just gonna go with that. We shared a period or two in school, which made it pretty easy for us to keep in touch. We often ended up in the same table group when it came to group projects, and while we didn't initially like each other at first, we both came around. Beyond both liking brightly colored pastel ponies, we found we both had a thing for art, and while she was infinitely better at it than I was, she still is to this day, it was still nice to have someone to doodle with and talk to. Eventually, come the end of that school year, we ended up trading contact information so we could keep talking over the summer. Over that summer, while scrolling YouTube, I found a bunch of really old My Little Pony fan parodies called the Mentally Advanced series, which is basically just the show. Everybody's voiced by one guy and everyone's a cynic for some reason, and nobody seems to actually want to be friends with each other. They're just tolerating each other because they have to.
And then he played video games. Well, the part before that was amazing, and he held out for 30 seconds. He held out for what? I could hold out for longer than that. In bed, you complete half-wit. I can stay awake for 2 days. Dash, the adults are talking!
Which, to be honest, I just find that super funny. Anyway, MAS had a spin-off show called Rainbow Dash Presents, which is just the same thing, except it's narrated by this dopey-sounding Rainbow Dash that sounds like they have a concussion.
Okay, the world presents some problems and we don't know what to do. You've come to find your feelings aren't exactly what you knew.
And so they sound like this, and it's super ear grating, and you gotta hear this for 20 minutes the entire time.
It's great. So I looked at this, and I was like, I can do that. So I called Sunny up and asked if she wanted to be involved in helping me make this My Little Pony parody animation, which in itself was a parody of a parody of a parody of My Little Pony. Had we gone any further with the parodies, we probably would have breached into the My Little Pony matrix. And considering we both really had nothing else better to do, she agreed.
Wait. So, you want me to help you make a parody animation about My Little Pony? Alright then.
Which was really good for me, because while I could get the Rainbow Dash Presents style pretty well on paper, I had no digital art skills at the time. It was good to have someone who did.
Not like I have much else to do. Let's see the storyboard.
Oh, I actually haven't thought that
What do
far
you
ahead yet.
mean you're making it up as you go?
Fortunately, because neither of us had really done something like this before, the whole project ended up falling apart, because neither of us knew exactly what we were supposed to do. Believe it or not though, a lot of the stuff that we made for this did actually kind of survive. The little bit of the script that we did make is still completely intact in my Google Drive from July 13th of 2022.
And every single drawing that Sunny made for this is also completely survived, which I'm putting on the screen right now, just because. The mock-up intro I made for it is still here. It's sitting in my work in progress playlist if you want to see it for some reason. And while most of the audio didn't make it, I know for a fact that at least one take of my Rainbow Dash voice did in fact survive all these years, because I did a test take with one of the worst microphones I've ever heard in my entire life.
Could you hack my YouTube video so it has more views? I want more people to see this video.
Still though, even if this project fell through, we had a decent fun time doing it. It brought me one step closer to where I am now by showing me how much I like recording and writing things for YouTube. My Dawn Somewhere Rainbow Dash impression would eventually be reused in my Deltarune video for Lancer.
I'm the bad guy.
The bad guy?
And it was fun to collaborate with somebody, storyboard, and bounce ideas off of them, which is a mentality I still hold to this day. Oh, and it also broke my sense of humor, which would later influence my decision when it comes to selecting my avatar, but we're getting there. Alongside Rainbow Dash Presents, there was another project that I worked on with Sunny during that summer, though this one you might recognize just a bit more. Friday Night Funkin'. What can I say about you that hasn't already been said before? Originally released in around 2020, the Newgrounds-themed rhythm game took the internet by storm, for a multitude of reasons, but one of them was the fact that it was very easy to mod. All you really need are a few images, audio files, and that's about it. Obviously, like all things, it gets more complex as you go. But as for the surface level bar of entry, it's pretty little to begin with. I got into the game itself because of the mod community. I played a lot of them back in 2022, but one of them was my favorite. So this is Garcello. You know, I wrote a college level paper about this guy like a few months ago for a college level class. I got an A on it, by the way. Imagine being a college professor and reading a paper about Garcello. Anyway,
Garcello is basically, well, actually, you know what? Here's how Anne described Garcello.
I thought of this chill-looking guy that has a magic cigarette or vape pod or whatever, and like every time he'd exhale, the smoke would be in the style of the flames from Promare. First song is like fun difficult, right? Second song, he starts coughing a bit, maybe in beats of the song, and he's a bit out of it. And then in the third song, he just drops dead in the middle of the song. Maybe becomes a ghost.
I like that idea.
And then he says he's gonna go to Ghost McDonald's or something.
Awesome. Ghost McDonald's.
Cool character design, sick music, but the catch is that it's backwards from the standard formula, where it gets easier and he dies.
He died.
He dies.
Yep, he dies. His entire purpose as a character is to exist for a few minutes and then die. Garcello was created by a fellow YouTube creator named Otsover, a music, animation, and art channel, I guess. I don't know, she does a lot of things. Personally, one of my favorite works she's done is when she played Roblox Parkour in VR, because it sounded like she was seconds away from vomiting every single time she talked.
Well, okay, wait. Kinda. Oh god. Oh my god, look at that. Oh, it feels like I'm doing drugs. No, I can't. As I continue playing.
But yeah, Anne's content was a really big inspiration for me. So much so that I decided that I want to try my hand at making my own FNF mod. I called Sunny about it, and she was once again on board, but it was up to me to come up with a character. So I did. At the time, her name was Rachel Goldstein, or as she's known in the files, Rachi for short, a combination of both of those names. You know, because typing out Rachel Goldstein for every single file that's attached to her is very annoying. A byproduct for when you just search up cool girl names on Google and just hit randomizer. She has like no interesting characteristics or anything. Her name has no meaning or whatever. She's just super boring. She shares a lot of similarities with a previous character I made before this though, who was named Crystal Grace Jones and looked like this and would, you know. This atrocity is for another time, okay? I then redid it to be more FNF-y, and Sunny redid it to make it more clean and nice to look at actually. Along with a bunch of her other post sprites, obviously. Which is really good, especially when you consider that I literally handed her garbage and expected her to make gold. And yet for some reason I didn't use them. I just kind of like traced my original drawing onto digital anyway and then just tweened the heck out of it. Why did you do that, you idiot? This looks horrible compared to her. Will give myself credit though. I did actually manage to complete this project. It is playable and it is in a relatively completed state. The only issue is that I don't know anyone on earth who'd want to play this. It's really bad. The music is like absolute garbage, and like the few that aren't complete garbage is like, one of them is a Vocaloid song that I put in here for absolutely no reason, and the other one is a bastardization of Garcello's release. And oh yeah, Garcello is in here. I put Garcello in this mod. I don't know why. He has no reason to be here, and he's not my character, but I put him here anyway. Thought it was so cool. It was like epic crossover. Oh my gosh. It was not cool, Mooney. This is absolute trash, okay? Okay, so I was in the middle of recording my Friday Night Funkin' mod footage. You can probably hear it in the recording. Yeah, I'm in the middle of recording it right now, and like, this is so Dude, this chart is so terrible. The freaking dialogue in this sucks, dude. I tried banter. This is so shit, man. This is so terrible, dude. I ended up with like so many misses in the first song because the chart in the second song sucks too. This like so like freaking this is terrible. It sucks to play. There's so many freaking notes that are too close together, and I hate this song. I hate this, dude. This song sounds like friggin' Disney Channel wouldn't even pick it up. Like Disney Channel rejected this song, dude. This song is terrible, and I loop it twice for like no reason to make it longer. It's like not even that long of a song. I loop it twice, and it's not even interesting. There's no song progression. This is terrible. I hate this. What is it? This chart's so. The Garcello week now. I'm gonna play the Garcello week. I want to see what reason I gave to have Garcello, the amazing, great Garcello in my FNF mod. I want to see what amazing reason I gave for Garcello to be in this mod. Well, that was pretty fun. Agreed. Why is Garcello here? There's no... Garcello just appears. Garcello is just here. There's no reason for him to appear. Garcello is just existing. Garcello just appears. Apparently he's at the door. Dude, it's just here. There's literally no reason for Garcello to be here. It's just self-insert freaking... What the Okay, fine. Finally, a good chart. I get a good chart. I get a good chart because I literally just ripped it off of Oddsilver. This is just Oddsilver's chart because this is just release. Except if release was absolute crap and if freaking Oddsilver didn't know how to write music. Okay, this song is fine. I'll give this song a pass because it's literally just release. Just a lot worse. And then I just insert fading into the song. Fading is just here. This isn't part of the actual song, okay? This is just fading. This is just I just stole fading. I didn't even remix it like the other one. Like I didn't remix it like release. It's just fading again. This is just Ratchet doesn't even sing for this entire portion of the song. It's literally just This is just fading. What the frick is this? Fast forward a few years after the development of this amazing mod. Me and Sunny went our separate ways after completing the mod project, since the next year after that we ended up going to different schools. So I was kind of left with the sole ownership of this little gremlin thing. I ended up just kind of drawing her randomly, you know, like kind of a back pocket character, where I just draw her in margins during school or whatever. I like the character, but I didn't really have a use or purpose for her anymore, so she was just kind of there. Eventually though, I found myself wanting to do digital art again. I decided to use Rachi as my guinea pig of choice because, well, I'd rather draw something kind of more original than Sonic the Hedgehog. I pulled her out of retirement and ended up with this. I changed her color palette by, like, a lot because I didn't like how absurdly yellow she was originally. And fun fact, it was actually worse before because I made this design as Rachi's minus design, and it is way worse. And I also made her hair blue. I don't know why, because it just puts me in the same position I was earlier with too much of one color, but alright. I did end up changing it back to yellow though later on, so it's fine. And oh look, you guys might recognize this one, maybe, because this is the design that would debut under the MoonieMuses name on my first video. Yay! Except no, because the true mascot of this channel that was originally made for it was supposed to be this guy. I actually don't have a name for this guy. And so we're gonna call him the guy, like in Spy Kids.
I'm the guy!
Stop saying you're the guy. We all know that you're not the guy. He's not the guy! I'm the guy. The real guy.
Truly, from just that alone, you can see how much I cared about the guy when I made him. This character was made completely out of obligation, because this is around the time when I was introduced to my goat, Nathan. Infamous Swoosh. And Infamous Swoosh is one of the best storytime animators and is way better than Brody animates, because unlike Brody, he has not been traced continuously as a trope. This shows just how great he is, because no one can stand up to his greatness. And so nobody even tries to, unlike this pineapple on pizza enjoying fraud. But back on track. When I first discovered Nathan, I found him alongside a bunch of other storytime animators. There were the generic old ones like Jaden Animations, and some of the newer guys like Toby Animates and That Guy John. Both of those guys I happen to know actually. Hey guys, what's up? Based on what I saw across all these channels, I understood the basics of what they did. Draw a funny story, tell a cool picture, something like that. And I also understood that in order to do this properly, if I wanted to break into this niche, maybe, then I needed a cool character. Based on what everyone else's character looked like, it had to look like me. I am very boring looking. This is a bit of a later image example, but even here I think you can see what my main issue was with this. My IRL character, while albeit accurate, is not very interesting. It's a guy with black spiky-ish hair, black brownish eyes, and glasses. Oh yeah, and the biggest elephant in the room is his hair. I hated drawing my hair. I don't know why, but I just found it difficult, and I couldn't give myself a hairstyle that I felt was both accurate and that I liked looking at. And I didn't get it right until very recently for some reason. And by this point, it's a bit too late. So that's how I created the guy. The guy was basically the result of me taking my original character design as a base, and then just doing whatever I want with it. And while I consider this a general step up in terms of being visually engaging, I still had my own set of issues with the guy. My biggest issue being that I just really did not care about him. Come on, I didn't even give him a name. I still have, I'm just calling him the guy. Cake. So I was in a bit of a predicament. I needed a character that was more interesting than this guy, but I actually cared about them unlike this guy. My solution was this guy, named Glitchbite, who I also immediately trashed because I thought he looked terrible. Well, never mind. Problem not solved. I still needed a character for my YouTube channel rebrand, and I had no good candidates that I wanted to use. And then I got served this video. Because apparently after my big binge of Storytime animators, YouTube decided to send me these old things again. Cause you know, hey, this guy likes Storytime animation.
This pony counts as an animation, right?
Yeah, my tiebreaker decision to use the girl avatar over everything else was the fact that I thought this fun My Little Pony parody with a guy voicing every single girl character was funny. And in my defense,
All you did was read that book. And it wasn't even my book.
Your book is the literary equivalent of a flaccid cock.
Nuh-uh. It's super exciting. It's all about my adventures and stuff.
Twilight, are you trying to get known as the girl who compares dicks to books? Alright, let's look. And then I used my rainbow eye lasers to kill Billy from gym class.
Please, Twilight, please, just write all that down in red ink so I can get better.
No, it's about as appealing as a dick and a wood chipper. Alright, now you're just doing it on purpose.
it is pretty funny. I know, this sounds super stupid, but then again, what have I said in this video that isn't completely stupid? I spent this entire time talking about My Little Pony, Friday Night Funkin', and now My Little Pony again to justify one simple thing. And can you blame me? I'm an idiot. So I decided to bite the bullet. Besides, if I'm gonna go out of my way to design new characters that look nothing like me anyway, I might as well be funny about it. But interestingly, in my initial announcement video in terms of my channel rebrand, because in case you didn't know, I used to make memes back in the day and I don't anymore, I didn't really use the character a lot when I made this video, instead opting for Sonic Mania gameplay in the background. But in the situations when I did use Mooney, who I'm going to call Mooney now, unlike the old name because this is her new name, rather than acting as my stand-in as she eventually would become, she acts instead as a reactant to me, where she has some sort of sarcastic sign or sarcastic dialogue box based on whatever stupid thing I said beforehand. It's kinda like Dano Caldraws and his relationship with his character Riggy the Runky, if you know that guy. Where Riggy isn't exactly a stand-in for Dano or Sona of Dano, he was just kind of a counterplay to Dano. He was voiced by Dano, but canonically he was a different character, I guess. But by the time that I started working on my first actual video, I decided it would be best for me to cut that out because it was just completely distracting from the original video and completely unnecessary. And so what we're left with is the final video that I released, which essentially just turned the character into my Sona. I thought it was actually pretty good, and by the time I released my second video, which was my first channel trailer, I was pretty much locked in what I wanted to do. I honestly didn't think the character would actually stick around. I thought that I just ended up using her as a placeholder for a bit, you know, because, you know, she was originally just made to be funny, but she did. Surprisingly, I ended up meeting a lot of people online who knew me under this identity and ended up giving me a lot of fan art under it and stuff like that. To be honest, the more videos I made, the more I grew attached to this character myself. She stayed surprisingly consistent after all this time, you know, aside from major art style changes and stuff. With the biggest changes made to her as of late is when I initially decided to redesign her to justify her new Mooney name, and also right now when I decided to overhaul her outfit just because I felt like it. Oh, and the eyes, I changed those too. One of you asked, and I thought it was a really good question, so here's the answer for that. I'll make it fast. Originally, I used these 1940s Pac-Man style eyes for a little bit, before I eventually swapped over to the more traditional bean style eyes used by most Storytime animators, mostly because I thought that it looked better. But when I made the switch, I didn't bring over this little eyelid shape that I had originally, so all my character had now were just little bean pupils. Which isn't a bad thing. Ask Jade Animation, Swoosh, Toby, John, like I said, all do really good work, and most of them utilize this kind of eye style. But even they know that there's only a certain amount of things that this eye can do until you have to switch over to something else if you want to get your point across, something more expressive. So I tried adding form back into my eye. Except when I did that, I was drawing attention to the fact that I had a pupil and not a sclera colored in. And when I did color in the sclera, I just didn't like how it looked, and also the fact that it was really hard to trace in onion skin mode because it doesn't show the color white. So if I wanted to keep my eye shape consistent across things, I had to color it in black and then change it back to white later, which would mess with my line art because I do line art in black. So later on, I decided to just try and color it in with just black and see how I liked it. and I really liked it. It was really expressive, and also really unique. How many other storytime animators can you say actually do something like this with their eyes? Probably not a lot. So I decided to keep it, even if it made me look like the kid of Sans Undertale. But all in all, I think she's become such a big part of this channel identity that I don't think I can really get rid of her anymore. Not that I'd have very good options if I did though. Who am I going to use? The guy? Heck, this character is even the reason why my YouTube name is the way that it is. Because back then, my username used to be Noonifu, which I stole from my cousin, by the way. Because originally, he had a Roblox username because he wanted a username called Loony except obviously Roblox wasn't gonna let that slide. So he randomly changed around the letters of the name until he got this thing. And then I stole it because he didn't want it anymore. Although his handle is still Noonifu. So, you know, I guess if you're playing Roblox and they're going up against a guy named Noonifu, that's probably my cousin. Anyway, during my rebrand, I wanted an entirely new name to separate myself from my old stuff. But I didn't want something too radically different because I actually really like the way that Noonifu sounds. So my thought process when it came to this name was like this. I changed the N in Noonie to an M to make it Mooney because, you know, close enough and it sounded nice. And Muses was added at the end later, both as a way to mirror the original name and as a reference to Greek mythology. Except, wait a minute, this version spelled with a Y still, but that's not what it looks like anymore. Well, the reason I changed it is because of, well, my character choice. If you remember, her original nickname back then was Rachi, because I wanted a shortened name for the files in my FNF mod. And so, when I decided to revive the character for the YouTube channel, I decided to change the spelling from a Y to an IE to poke fun at myself. What started out as a half-hearted attempt at a joke and gag and a personal callback to a previous work that I did, have been a decision that in the end led to a character that was nothing short but heartfelt. Because of how ungrounded in reality I conceive this character to be, I basically treat this character like Play-Doh. Everything is free game and I can do whatever I please, so it's not uncommon that every single time I find a new inspiration, get a new idea, or just get a better understanding of an aspect of art, that I will inject that into the character. My creativity, my art skills, my inspirations, all of them just kind of crammed together under a single entity. It's fun to look back at, because you can see things like how my art style evolved, what I prioritized, didn't prioritize, and what I would prioritize later. If you know what to look for, you can sometimes see influences of certain creators come in and come out of my art. And I'm not the only one that affects my character, but my friends too. It's not uncommon that I see someone else's interpretation of Mooney and decide to take cues from it and put it into my own original. The most notable examples being this art piece by Art Enjoyer and this one by that guy John, which would have direct influence of what the character looked like during my Deltarune video. Or this redesign made by my channel background artist, Just Kim, who redesigned and streamlined certain aspects of the character, most notably giving them a much more recognizable hairstyle, which I've embraced fully, may I add. So I guess in that funny way, the character that represented me the worst externally ended up being the one that represented me the best internally. Always changing, always evolving, and always trying to work with others. Fitting, I suppose, considering that this character would have never made it out the door if it weren't for a friend. And hey, Sun, Moon? Funny how things work out like that in the end sometimes. Happy little accident. But between you and me, and don't tell Sunny, I have the better Pokemon.
Hi guys! Sunny D Dandelion here recording the end card. Thanks to Mooney for having me on to help out again. And like the video if you liked it, subscribe and ring the bell if you want more from Mooney, and check out my personal social links in the description if you want to see stuff from me. And we'll hopefully see you around. Bye!